Hi, welcome back and welcome to day 11 of Scrap Squad's 12 days of summer scrap lifts. Today's layout, as you will have seen there, is full of rosettes and it's something I really enjoy making. So today I'm using the Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller range again, and once again the A5 paper pad, which is just over 8 inches tall. So for each rosette I'm cutting 2 strips of paper, and I'm doing 4 large ones which are a width of 1.5 inches and 2 smaller ones which are a width of 1 inch. And then I'm going to score using my scoring blade or my trimmer at 1/4 inch intervals. So I'll show you a little bit of this and then I'm going to cut away because it would be very boring watching me scoring hundreds of strips of paper, and it does take a little bit of time, but it's so worth it in the end. So here I am just scoring every 1/4 inch. Of course, if you don't have a trimmer with a scoring blade, you can just use a ruler and something blunt, so the end of a paintbrush or some such thing would work really well. If you put it on foam, then it makes it much easier to score. So there are the 2 strips, and here they are. So I just start concertinaing into a fan. And you can do this one of 2 ways, and I've done them both. You can either concertina and then stick together, or stick them together, allow the glue to dry a bit, and then do the whole long strip as a concertina. So just showing that you definitely need 2 strips here. And the width of your scoring lines determines the depth of your final rosette. So I never go, even if I make the rosettes bigger, I never go above a 1/4 inch because I don't want too much depth on my layout. And then of course it's the width of your strips that gives you the size of the rosettes. So here I am slotting them together. You can see I slot 2 V's into one another, and then just using some wet glue, my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive there, and then leaving it to dry a little while I start on the next one. So this is the bigger rosette that I'm doing, but again keeping the scoring lines at 1/4 inch. So now they're both done. On this one you'll see I'm sticking together before I start concertinaing, and I'm sticking 2 pieces on each, if that makes sense. So it creates a V, and then once that's stuck, creating the V and then keeping on concertinaing all the way up. Of course you can buy pre-made rosettes if you don't want to do this all yourself. American Crafts quite often do them. They call them delights, and they're delightful. But it is quite satisfying doing your own, even if it does take a little bit of time. So the paper's just moved a bit there, so I was just fiddling to get it level. I should have left it to dry really before fiddling, but I was being impatient. And then once you've finished concertinaing it all, you'll need 2 circles. I just used my circle punch. I think I used 1 inch for the front and a 1.5 inch circle for the back, just to hold it all together. It's a bit fiddly. So you just glue the 2 edges together, again doing like a V, slotting the 2 V's together. Just checking it's all straight. And here I am punching the circles. So just use scrap white card for the back. And then choose the floral for the front. And just centre my punch onto one of the flowers just to add a bit of prettiness. You could use one of the pattern papers, they work just as well. In fact, yeah, I used this blue, but I wanted some of that white distress showing on it. So this is a little bit fiddly, but you want to squash it in the centre so that it creates the rosette. Squash it flat like that, and then hold it as tight as you can, because it just gives a nicer finish to the pleats. And then while you're trying to hold it together, glue the circle on the back. And just need to hold this for 20 or 30 seconds just for the glue to bond. And then as soon as it's bonded, you can flip over. There we go. And stick your circle on the front. And that's the first of the larger rosettes done, and then this is the smaller one. So when it's all stuck together, you'll see the difference in size between the two. I just wanted to distress the edges a little bit of this circle, and I ended up doing that on all of them in the end. Just checking I'm happy with the positioning. And that's the two done. I'll do the rest off camera because it gets a bit boring. So there we are, 4 large and 2 small. And then once they were actually made and I started fiddling about, I realised that they were probably a bit bigger than I would have liked. I think with hindsight I would probably do 1 inch for the larger ones, or 1.25 inch for the larger ones, and 3/4 inch for the smaller ones. But they still look nice and they give a good effect, but I end up discarding one. So next I'm just looking at bits to fill in the gaps between the rosettes. And I quite like these cut aparts, the tags on here. And this is a picture of Amelia in a little summer dress that I made for her. I ended up making quite a few, one for one of the neighbours' daughters and Leanne's little girl. They were great fun to make. And I do become a bit obsessive sometimes when I make something. I want to keep making and making. You can probably see one on the back of the sofa there in the photo. But Amelia did like them. They were great for the summer, especially when the weather's like it is today. So just looking through the sticker sheet to see if there's anything on there that I want to use, and then pulling out the ephemera pack. I've already used quite a few bits from this ephemera pack. It's absolutely fantastic. So just trying little bits and pieces out, anything that I might like the look of. So now I'm going to map the photo just to make it pop a little bit more. Starting with a white mat, just with scrap card. And I want to try and bring the colours out of the photo. The dress that she's trying on for us is yellow and green, so I'm trying to stick mainly to the yellows and greens. So matting it onto the white there. My trimmer really does need a new blade. And then the yellow and green here. So start with the yellow. And I've gone with the yellow because there aren't any yellow rosettes underneath the photo itself, so that works quite nicely. And then just deciding whether I want to mat them wonky or straight, offset them or keep them all. But as soon as I put it on, I realised that the green is way too big. It covers up too much of the rosette, so I just stick to the yellow. And like I say, that works perfectly because it's on a pink navy and green rosette, so the yellow really pops. So just sticking it down onto the mat. And then I want to glue it all together so that I can move it off the page and start with the mixed media bit underneath. So once it's positioned exactly where I like it, and just glue the photo to the rosettes. And then glue the two smaller ones to that cluster, moving all the other bits out the way, which would be fine if I had a clear, tidy desk, but I don't, and I lose half the bits, you'll see, when I try and put it all back together again. So just checking, and then using a pencil just to mark underneath so I can see exactly where my painting needs to go underneath my mixed media. And then just checking that I've got enough pencil marks so that I can see where I'm going. There we go. And then I'm pulling in my Distress Oxides, and I'm using antique linen to start with, and this is a great yellow because it's not too bright, and I've noticed a lot of the yellows in the collections this season aren't too bright, so I really like this antique linen with a lot of the current collections that I'm using. It's lighter than a mustard yellow, but it's that sort of tone. So I start with that, and this is where my title's going to go, so just a big mat for the title. And then I leave that to dry, and I go in with bundled sage, but I forgot to press record on the camera, so that was a bit annoying. But you'll see here, that's where the bundled sage added, and I added some splatters as well. And when I left that to dry, I felt like it was a bit too green and yellow, and there was none of the pink that had been brought in, so then I went in with my tattered rose and just added a tiny bit of that around the edges, and it really brings it all together, I think, because you've got that pink rosette and obviously the colour of Amelia's skin as well in the photo. It just adds something. So that isn't actually glued down, just so that I can manipulate and move things, but it just gives me a better idea of exactly where to put this tattered rose. And they're just adding some splatters at the end. And then I wanted a few more bits and pieces to add, and I'd absolutely love this floral paper to fussy cut. So you'll see me fussy cutting a few bits out of this to add, and it really does add something else that you don't get from just the ephemera pack or the floral pack, which are much bigger pieces. So using the A5 paper stack is a great way of getting smaller bits to tuck in around your layout. So just simply doing a little bit of this, and then I'll cut away, because again, it's a bit boring watching somebody fussy cutting all the time. So here we have, they're the fussy cut bits. And just gluing it all down into place. And I don't know how, but every time I mark, I must move the piece around when I'm marking with my pencil, and my pencil lines seem to show somewhere. So I need to work on that a bit more and try and put my pencil lines a little bit further inside. So here I am trying to rub it off, and of course, because the paper is still a tiny bit wet underneath, it's pulled some of the paper off, but that's fine. I'll just cover it with one of the fussy cut pieces that I've got there. So again, just working out where I want to put everything, because like I said, to the right where you can't see, all my papers and everything is all over the place, and I can't find the bits that I had on there originally. I always try and be a tidy scrapper, but I'm just not. Adding one of the flare that I designed for this collection. I think the camera was perfect because it was Amelia posing in the dress that I'd just made. I'd literally just taken it off the machine and was desperate for her to try it on and check it fitted okay. So sticking all these bits down now, I'm happy with the positioning. And once this is all done, it's time to turn my attention to the title. I have to do that every so often, lift the layout up to check that everything's stuck down, because I lose track of what I've done. And then some foam to stick behind the top left-hand corner of the photo. Where the rosettes are holding the rest of the photo up, it was just sagging there. So I had to build up. I think I had to use 4 layers in the end. It was surprising how deep those rosettes are. So just building and testing. Positioning underneath, and that makes it much more sturdy, so I'm much happier with that. And now my trusty T-ruler to get my wording for the title straight, and the title is simply going to be New Dress. And once again, using these puffy stickers from the Summer Chaser range by Heidi Swap. They're absolutely brilliant, and because they're black and white, they're very neutral, but they seem to be lasting very well, and I can definitely see myself wanting another packet. Easy to use, easy to reposition, sticky enough. I don't think they're going to fall off, and not too heavy on the layout, so very happy with them. And I've started from the end of the second word just so that it's nestled up as tightly as it can be to that rosette. But you'll see here there's not enough mixed media underneath it, so I stick the D down, but I'm not happy. So I lift that up and just add a little bit more. This is why I never wipe up until I finish, because you can just reactivate the bits that you've got left and it's enough. So just leaving that until that dries. And then going in with journaling. Always have to add a bit of journaling just to tell the story. And as I moved the paper, of course, the water moved and the paint moved, but just blotted it up with a piece of tissue and it's fine. And I look a bit strange because I was trying not to get my hand in that wet mixed media by the D. The perils of being left-handed. Try not to smudge everything. And then I think off camera I add the date around the little circle, say moments in time, that's just below the flare badge. I think you see that in the final shots. the close-ups that I show you. And that's it. That's the layout finished. Really enjoyed this one. I hope you did too. I'll leave you with some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.